We're talking about the profound concept of strategic stillness, and specifically mastering what's known as the wait strategy. Let's just dive right into this by tapping into a super visceral, deeply shared human experience. Okay, picture yourself in a room, right mid-conversation. You've just spoken. Or, hey, maybe they just spoke, and suddenly the dialogue completely stops. Have you ever been in a conversation where the silence suddenly becomes heavy? I mean, so physically uncomfortable, you can literally feel it tightening right there in your chest. And what happens next? Your heart rate ticks up, your mind is racing, you find yourself rushing to say anything, literally anything at all, just to make that agonizing awkwardness go away. You want to fill the void, you want to smooth things over, right now. Well, most people look at this quiet moment as this terrifying, empty space that desperately needs to be filled. But if you look at how power actually moves in human interactions, you'll realize that silence is actually one of the most highly active environments you can possibly step into. See, we're completely socially conditioned to believe that clarity creates trust. So we end up playing the role of the anxious over-explainer. Think about a time you pitched an idea to a group or maybe a client, and nobody said anything immediately. Did you instinctively start rambling? Did you start justifying the idea, kind of watering it down, desperately trying to build a bridge of understanding? Actually, in a strategic environment, constantly explaining yourself like that is a transaction where you are losing ground. You're filling the void simply because you can't handle the pressure. But let's look at the alternative, the strategic listener. They hold power by using silence actively. They understand that stillness isn't just an absence of noise. No, it's a highly sophisticated tool used to force other people to reveal their hand, their priorities, and their secrets, all without ever having to ask a single probing question.
So let's get into section 1, the discomfort of silence.
It's a profound truth that impatience is the most reliable tool used to manufacture a loss. Seriously, the reality is that so many highly intelligent people just hand away their power in conversations simply because they haven't trained their tolerance for uncertainty. Think about the last time you had to, say, justify a late project or a mistake to your boss. If they just sat there and stared at you, what did you do? You probably went step by step explaining your entire reasoning just to feel that dead air. And when you do that, you are essentially seeking their approval. You take the other person and you literally place them high up in the position of a judge while you stand down below pleading your case. You lose ground not because your argument is inherently bad, but because your impatience forces you to give away your most valuable data for absolutely free. Moving right along to section 2, mastering the pressure shift. Now, executing the wait strategy involves 3 very distinct, deliberate steps. Step 1, tolerate uncertainty. You have to actively train yourself to not panic when the conversational script just runs out. Just let the air hang. Step 2, sit in that unresolved tension. You've got to resist every single biological urge to rush in and fix the social awkwardness. Let it be awkward. And step 3, well, this is where the absolute magic happens. Shift the pressure. See, when you flat out refuse to fill a heavy silence, you aren't just being quiet. You are physically shifting the physiological weight of the interaction right back onto the other person. You are returning that awkwardness to sender, forcing them to carry the conversational burden. And this totally disarms manufactured urgency. Manipulators and bad faith actors constantly use this tactic to force your hand. We see this all the time in high-stakes environments, right? It's that aggressive, rapid-fire questioning in a boardroom meeting designed to make you stumble. Or, it's the classic limited time offer pressure tactic at a car dealership. They want to force you into quick decisions before you can even think clearly. But by slowing down and deploying the wait strategy, you completely break their rhythm. Sitting in that unresolved tension makes them panic. They start wondering, wait, did I misjudge them? They wonder if they moved too early or if you're vastly more composed than they originally assumed. Your waiting creates in them the exact same pressure they were trying to manufacture in you. Which brings us to section 3, reading body language leaks. Now, while the other person is sweating in the silence you've just created, your job is to shift from an anxious participant into a cool, clinical, pattern-recognizing observer. The human body is incredibly bad at lying. While they sit in the pressure of your silence, their body will inevitably begin to leak information. You want to watch for these specific physiological signs. First, the lip press, where the lips are rolled in and tightened. This strongly signals withheld thoughts or silent disagreement. Next, mouth grooming, things like biting the inside of the cheek or licking the lips. This often indicates someone who is experiencing high stress or disagreeing with you but hasn't spoken up yet. Or look for that subtle one-corner mouth raise. That is a universal microexpression for pure contempt. The biological reality is that the body always confesses the truth long before the mouth ever speaks, and your strategic silence It's the only environment quiet enough to actually hear it. All right, let's look at section 4, the power of controlled weakness. Machiavelli famously called this controlled weakness. And I know, it sounds completely counterintuitive, right? Why on earth would you intentionally want to appear weak in a high-stakes environment? Well, it's actually a brilliant paradox. Because the impatient person, the anxious over-explainer we talked about earlier, they simply cannot resist showing off how smart they are. They'll aggressively correct every assumption and eagerly show every single card they hold in their hand just to prove their competence. But the patient person, the one utilizing the wait strategy, they understand that being underestimated is actually a high ground position. Letting the opponent underestimate you is a deliberate tactic designed specifically so they reveal exactly what they are working with. So while the impatient person is busy correcting assumptions and showing all their cards, the patient person stays perfectly still. Imagine being in a high-stakes salary negotiation. The anxious person throws out a number, gets met with dead silence from the hiring manager, and what do? They immediately counter their own offer. They literally drop their asking price before the other side even speaks. But when you stay still, when you let someone believe they have the upper hand, an amazing psychological shift happens. They open up, they talk much more freely, they reveal their true priorities without you ever having to dig for them. And most importantly, in negotiations, they'll make offers they would never normally dare to make if they felt the power balance was totally equal. Basically, by doing less, you gain significantly more. And finally, Section 5, becoming unreadable and free. In any strategic interaction, position is freedom. You don't win by being the loudest person in the room or the most aggressive. No, you win by becoming someone who cannot be easily read or moved. You want to become what the source material calls expensive to deal with. This is a state of true power, where your reactions are no longer automatic. Your engagement is not just some trained reflex to someone else's prompt. Think about someone in your own life who never rushes to answer, someone who deliberately pauses before reacting. I bet you approach them with much more respect, don't you? When you master strategic stillness, people inherently start acting more carefully around you. And they do this not because you threaten them, but simply because they can no longer calculate your next move. So, as we wrap up today's explainer, I want to leave you with this final, absolutely critical question. Who controls the pace of your next conversation? Will it be the manufactured urgency of someone else, or will you command the room through the sheer power of strategic stillness? It's time to stop reacting on command. Remember, in the complex mental choreography of life, silence isn't empty. It's your greatest advantage. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll see you next time as we continue to decode the fascinating frameworks of human behavior.